Hey everybody, welcome to Big E's Auto. I'm Big E. So you can see by over my shoulder we got the turd out of the trailer, so which means it's track prep time. So one of the things we got done already was I did change the oil in it, so we have fresh synthetic oil in the motor. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the alignment, namely the toe in, toe out setting. And before I get too far into it, I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Kevin at KSR Performance in Florida. I was doing a little searching around on YouTube, came across his channel. Guy's very knowledgeable. In fact, I watched, I think it was almost a 50-minute video on what I'm about to do here, how to check your toe in, toe out, and all kinds of other alignment stuff by using a string and careful measuring. So I'm actually going to follow his way he does it, because it just made more sense to me. So if you want, after this video, you want to check out his channel, KSR Performance. Kevin there, very knowledgeable, big shout out to him. Anyway, so I'm going to show this pretty much how he did. He explained, I made a card here for you guys to explain. So obviously this is the front, rear of the car. So what we're going to do is our main concern is here, because it's a solid axle rear car. So there's not going to be too much adjustment here. It's either in or it's out. It's not like it's an independent suspension like you have in a Corvette where it's all four or independent. This is a solid live axle. We're going to take measurements, but we're not going to worry about it too much. What we're mainly concerned about is the front. So what we're going to do is, with the poles that I showed in the other video, we're going to set those up and we're going to run a string along on both sides. So basically we're going to create a box around the car, which is the same thing that an alignment shop does with their laser that they hook on your wheel. Same principle, except this is more of a concrete type of thing, not abstract like with a laser. Like you actually have to physically do this with the string and tape measure and take measurements. So we're basically just building a perfectly square box around the car, and then we're going to take measurements. We're going to measure from the center of the hub to here and the hub to here to make sure these are the same, to make sure that we're square. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing at the rear. And then once we have it square, we're going to take our measurement at the front and a measurement at the rear of the tire. And that's going to tell you which way your tire is towed in or towed out. Obviously, we want to have it towed, you know, as perfectly straight as possible as we're going down the track. I mean, obviously, you know, if it's towed out, you're going to get speed scrubbed off. If it's towed in, you're going to get speed scrubbed off, and you're going to have control issues as well. You want your car to be as solid as possible as it's going down the track, and this is one of the things we can do. I'm going to give this a shot. We're going to see what kind of measurements we get. We're going to see if we mess around with our toe in, toe out adjustment, and try and see if we can get this thing to maybe go down the track a little better. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some tools and some other things, get it set up, and I'll be back. Alright guys, one of the things that Kevin had talked about in his video was the idea of grease plates, which I never even heard of. I mean, even as a drag racer or part-time drag racer or whatever I am at this point, I never even heard of the term. So I was kind of intrigued when he talked about it. But the idea is very simple, and it just makes sense to me, because how, you know, it helps with getting an accurate measurement of what your suspension's doing, because when you take your measurements, you want that you want this suspension to be at neutral, at rest. It's where it should be. Not, you don't want it like preloaded in any way, shape, or form that would mess your measurements up, because then you're going to be chasing the cars. So I'm going to show here. I'm actually going to make them. I have them cut here. I'm going to move the camera here for you, so that way you can see a little better what I'm doing. So you can see I have a piece of aluminum already cut under here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some grease here. Don't be afraid to go a little much on it. So basically what we're going to do at this point is I took a paintbrush. I'm just going to kind of like try and spread it around. Making sure we get as much covered as we can, get all of it covered. Because basically what this is going to do is, now we're going to take this plate here, we're going to set it on top of that. Now as you can see how it's moving? I'm exaggerating. But when you set your tire on here, what's going to happen is that it's going to move. So by it moving, it's going to get your suspension where it is at rest, where it is with load on it. And that's what you want. That's where you want your measurement. That's where you want to make your adjustment, is having that suspension as neutral as possible. As you know, that way you're not chasing it around, wondering, okay, am I measuring it correctly? Again, grease plates, very simple to make. It's going to help you as far as making more accurate adjustments and taking more accurate measurements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make another grease plate for the other side, and then we're going to start trying to get this car strung up. Alright guys, so my helper here, Sadie's here, and so she's helping me out here. We got the car set up here, so basically we got it square. You can see we did, let me get my measurements here. So if you look where the string is, where I'm at, it's about 6 inches to there. Okay, so then what we're going to do is, that is the right rear. So we're going to go on the left rear. We're going to measure off the hub. We got a strong 6, so that tells me it's straight. So what we're going to do now, we're going to measure the front of the wheel and the back. So we're going to measure here. It's 2 1/4. 2 1/4. So that wheel looks straight. And then we're also going to measure on the right rear again. So we have 2 1/4, about 2 1/4. So the rear is straight. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the front here, measure off our hub. We have about 1 1/4 inches to the string. We'll go to the left front, and we have, whoops, don't want to hit the string, about 1 1/4 inches there as well. So we know that our box is square, and just that quick we knew that our the rear is setting straight in the car, which is good. So now what we're going to do is, if I can get the camera angle set up here, I'm going to take some measurements here. Let me see if this will work. Let me get you guys set up. So basically, you see our string here. So what I'm doing is, we're going to measure. We have 1 inch and 3/16 on the front, on the back of the tire, and we have 1 inch at the front. So that tells me right now, and make sure your steering wheel is straight, that tells you right now that this tire is doing this. I'm exaggerating with my hand, but that's what it's doing, okay? Not good. So what we're going to do, we're going to measure the other side as well. We're going to see what the toe looks like on the other side. So let's go over there, and we got to see, right, because when you're going down to 1/4 mile, whether you're doing 100 mile an hour or 200 mile an hour, you want to have that tire straight, and the car is going to feel more nimble at the top end. So we're going to go ahead and measure here. We're going to measure, I'm going to call that, my string is not, let me try a little bit there. We'll call that 1 inch. We'll call that 1 1/8 inches. So this one also is out, but not that much. For whatever reason, the right side of the car is really towed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the wrench for the tie rod end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the tie rod. I want to turn it to bring that in more. In fact, what I want to do, what I would like to do, is my adjustment, I would like it to have maybe even 1/8 of an inch in. So that way when the car rolls, just from rolling resistance, is going to push it out straight. So if I could tuck the tire in a little bit, that will be even better, because as the car starts to push, it's going to push that tire straight if it's towed in just a smidget. So that's what I'm going to shoot for. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to look for what size wrench that is, and we're going to adjust this up. All right, guys, so I made the adjustments, and would you believe how many times does it happen where you've never done a job before, and then on the first adjustment you nail it? Never happened before, happened today. So here we are with our adjustment. We have inch, I don't know, can you guys see that? 1.1/8 looks like to me. Go here, 1.1/8. So now that's perfect. Actually, what I want to do, I might adjust that, because now that's perfectly straight. The problem is, I think, as the car, it's going to push it out. So I might turn that in. I might give it maybe 2 or 3 turns yet on the adjustment. Here we have this one. We're at 1 inch and 1 inch. So basically right now, the way the car sits, the wheels are perfectly straight. You want to make sure too that your steering wheel is centered as well. You don't want it crooked. So our steering wheel is centered, our tires are straight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make one final adjustment on that to tow it in a smidge, and then when I come back, Sadie's going to help me, and we're going to check the bump steer in it and see how that is when we come back. So I'm going to make the little bit of a towing adjustment, and when I come back, we're going to start on the bump steer. All right, guys, so did our baseline towing adjustment. So we went ahead and we set the car at 1/8 of an inch toe in, so that way as it's going down the track and it's pushing those tires open, just from the whole idea of friction and inertia and all that get involved. So it's going to push the tires, if they're like this, we're hoping that that little bit in is going to push them straight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check the bump steer of the car, and to do that we got to measure ride height. So the first thing I'm going to do with the car at rest here is take my marker here, and we're going to measure our ride height. So careful not to hit the string too much. So our ride height, I'm going to call it make a mark. So at 29 inches, we have 1/8. Okay, so now let me set up my tape measure, and Sadie, if you want, and start jacking the car up. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. Unfortunately, with these Ford gens, there's not a lot of room to jack, so. Alright, you're going to hold it right there. Right, so we're at 30 right there. So let's check our toe adjustment is 1.5. It looks like 1 3/8.
That's not that bad.
So 1 3/8. So we're at about 1/8 of an inch. So it's holding steady. So I'm going to go ahead. So at 30 inches, we're still at 1/8 of toe in. Okay, so let me set up my tape measure, and Sadie, I'm going to have you jack up the car again. Keep going. Keep going. A little bit. A little more. Right there. That's good. Okay, at 31 inches of ride height, we're at 1.5.
Okay.
We're at about the same. We're at about 1/8 of an inch.
Is that good or bad?
So at 31, we're at 1 1/8. So Think you can jog 1 more inch?
Okay.
All right, let me set up the tape measure first.
So 1 more?
We're gonna do 1 more inch. Keep going. Keep going. More. More. Keep going. More. Keep going. More. I think you've reached the end of our jack. So I'm just simply by default gonna end the whole measuring thing there, but you get the idea of the whole idea behind bump steer is you want to check the your toe in adjustment as the suspension's going through its travel. In other words, as the car is leaving the line, that front end's coming up, and you want to see what your toe is doing at different parts during the launch. It seems like this one here, it's holding pretty steady. The adjustment, which is an 1/8 inch, is probably pretty good. So that tells you the suspension's pretty tight, and actually for the age of the car, not bad at all. So I think what I'm going to do at the eighth of an inch toe in, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to see how the car reacts and see how it performs on that. For now, I want to just, this was definitely a learning experience. First of all, I want to thank Sadie behind me for helping me out today. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm going to basically just end it here because we're going to do a walk around. I'm just going to show you how everything is set up with the strings and with the and make sure your string is tight here along the car, and again on that side. So that's how to string a car. I'm sure there's other measurements and other things I could do with it, but I'm not quite sure. But the big thing I learned from Kevin at KSR was the whole deal with the making the grease plates. I would have never known that. And I saw him working as I was making the adjustments. You literally would, well, here, let me show you real quick. You can see how this plate here moved. I had that level. See how much it moved? That will greatly throw off your measurements and your adjustments and where you're coming from, and really make stuff cattywampus. And that was a great idea from Kevin, and something I'm going to use for checking toe in and alignments and doing suspension stuff from now on. So this was a learning experience for me. I learned a lot. I didn't realize the car was out that bad, and it kind of was, but it's understandable for the age of the car. So I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot. And if you want to check it out, if you want more in-depth, check out Kevin's video, KSR Performance. He was working on Cletus's car Mullet when he did it. That car goes over 200 mile an hour. So I'm like, man, if this method works for a car going 200 mile an hour, it'll easily work for me that I'm going about a 111, 115 mile an hour. So it'll be perfectly fine. So anyway, hope you learned something. Anyway, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Let me know you guys are out there. If you learned anything, if it helped you out with your project. Anyway, until next time, watch out for each other. Take care of each other. See you next time right here on Big E's. Yeah. Bye for now.